Hey everybody, Sujit Patel here of Mailshake. Super pumped today to talk to you about cold calling. I got Wendy Weiss, the queen of cold calling. Without further ado, Wendy, thanks for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you so much for inviting me to be here.
So I gotta tell you, my first job ever was cold calling and door-to-door sales, very expensive vacuums, and every single day I went to work scared. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'm scared. Ended up being fine. But anyways, I'm excited to talk to you about cold calling because I think I did a little mild stalking. I think you got a lot to share. But before we jump in, do you mind just kind of quickly introducing yourself, kind of giving a quick overview on your background?
Oh, happy to do so. I will begin by saying I was never, ever supposed to be the queen of cold calling. I was actually supposed to be a ballerina. I grew up in Pittsburgh. I moved to New York City, where I still live and work. I moved here when I was a teenager to dance. I studied at the Joffrey Ballet School. And then eventually, like every artist in New York City, I needed a day job. And I got tired of waiting on tables. So then I got a job with a telemarketing agency that did B2B business development. And it turned out I was good at it. I mean, really, if you know anything about ballet or dancers, we don't talk, we dance. We do not talk. And so I did that day job for a while, and then I started my own business where I had clients that I would represent, and I did all the business development for them. And it was actually one of those first clients that dubbed me the queen of cold calling because I found so many opportunities for him. And then from there, I segued into the business that I have today. And the business that I have today is working with business owners, entrepreneurs, sales professionals, people that need to develop new business. And people that have gone through our programs, we teach business development skills. People are doubling and tripling their numbers, not only in terms of qualified appointments they're able to schedule, but also revenue down the line, acquiring new clients, and their sales cycles are shortening. But the one point that I want to make for everyone is I was really lucky. For any of you that are struggling with this, you're afraid, you're scared, you're uncomfortable, I was really lucky. Somebody taught me how to do this. That first day job that I got, they taught me this skill. Learning this skill enabled me to build a business. And so the really good news, because people say a lot of really stupid things about this topic, and we'll probably talk about that, but the really good news for any of you that might be struggling is it's a communication skill. You can learn how to do it, you can improve on it. And in working with my clients, I've seen them learn new skills, and then they're thrilled to see their results change.
That's awesome. I love it. I love the fact that it's a skill. You can learn it, you can master it. You just need training, just like anything else. That's awesome. So,
Yeah, and I'll share with you if I may, one of my pet peeves is this idea of the born salesperson, that there are somehow these people that are just born knowing what to do and knowing what to say and knowing how to handle themselves. That is a myth. I was lucky somebody taught me. You may be born with a whole lot of talent. It's just like the athletes at the Olympics. Just because you're a talented young athlete does not mean that you're going to the Olympics.
mhm.
And same thing here. You may have talent. That's a great thing. And then you add the skill on top of it.
Love it, love it. That's a great way to look at it. No one's going to be born just magically being able to sell, or really in any aspect. Like you're not born to be a developer. You don't just know how to code. You got to learn it, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so I want to jump into really my biggest question is, so what makes cold calling such an effective prospecting technique? How does it like? I'm sure it works. I know that it works. People wouldn't be investing time in it, but how is this such an effective technique?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say about this is that cold calling today, it doesn't work the way it did 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. And there's good news and there's bad news. It is in certain ways, it's harder. 10 years ago, 20 some years ago, when I started my business, people answered their own phones. That was easier. Today we have all sorts of sales intelligence tools. We have sales automation. We have all sorts of things that make our lives easier. So one of the things that so many people, one of the myths is that it's just, oh, dial the phone 100 times a day, and if that doesn't work, dial the phone 200 times a day, and if that doesn't work, dial the phone 300 times a day, and so on. And while you can do that with automation, you can use a dialer and do a lot of dials, then people are simply saying no to you faster if you do not have this skill. And so that's what it comes down to. And I'm going to say something very controversial, which is there's not a whole lot of difference between a warm call and a cold call. Warm is a construct that salespeople have made up. It does not define action. And just because we label a contact to be warm does not mean they're going to take action the way we want them to take action. And if you've ever called a lead that downloaded your white paper or opened your emails or filled out a contact form on your website and they have no idea what you're talking about, then you will agree with me. There's not a whole lot of difference. Prospects want to know, is this person saying anything I'm interested in hearing? And if the answer to that question is no, they will say, I'm not interested, and hang up. So the skill that we are talking about, whoever it is you're reaching out to, however you found that lead, that skill is getting someone's attention and then their agreement to engage with you. That's really what we are talking about. And to take it a step further, I like to think of this as an introductory call. It's not a cold call, it's not a warm call, it's an introductory call. You're calling to introduce yourself, your company, your products, your services you're offering. We make introductions all the time. Picking up the phone and introducing yourself to someone is one of the ways we can do that. And it is extremely powerful because you get to choose who do you want to do business with. I'm going to choose who I want to do business with, and then I'm going to introduce myself. It's very powerful.
Love it. Yeah, I like the attitude. So one of the things I hear a lot of salespeople talk about is, oh, like I'm bugging people and nobody wants to talk to me when I call them. I guess, like, what's your thought on that? To me, that sounds like a BS excuse. They need some training. They've got some, maybe they're not saying the right things. What's your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you. They're certainly, if they're not getting, this is like real life. People react to what you say. So if you call someone and you don't get the reaction that you want from that conversation, then you're probably not saying the right things. That's why it's a skill. I will say I would even take it a step back, because there are very valid, concrete reasons that prospects will talk to you, will engage with you, will welcome your calls. The first one is you offer value. You need to believe that you offer value. If you do not believe in the value of your offering, go find something else to do. But if you believe that you offer value, the next step is your prospects, if they are already working with someone, if they say to you, we're working with someone, I know people are really scared of that. We're working with someone. They don't know how to handle it. But that's actually good news. What it means is they have a line item in their budget to buy whatever it is you're selling. They understand the value. You are talking to a qualified prospect. So your prospects, they either need someone like you, or conceivably they need you. I used to have a client, one of my first clients when I was doing business development on behalf of clients, she was a printer. And she would say to me, Wendy, get me appointments with the people that are really loyal to their printers, because their printers are going to screw up. And when they screw up, they're going to hire me. And they're going to be just as loyal to me as they were to their previous printer. So get me the appointments with people that are loyal. So they need you, or they need someone like you, or conceivably they need you. If you have done your homework and you have targeted well, which is something we could talk about, it's really important. Part of someone's job is to know that they are getting the best value in whatever way they define value, whether that's pricing or service or quality, whatever it is. That's part of their job. So I would argue that when you pick up the phone and you introduce yourself, you are helping that person do their job better. I would also say that you do not know what your prospect is thinking. You know, when people say to me, oh, I'm bothering them, I'm interrupting them, they have a vendor, they're not going to be interested. What if they're sitting there thinking, I have a problem here, I need some help? I would argue that if you do not introduce yourself, you are doing them a disservice. And for any of you that do read minds, go get a show on the Learning Channel. But for everyone else, you don't know what your prospect is thinking. All you know is that you offer value, and there are legitimate reasons that these prospects should at least talk to you. I'm not saying everybody's going to become your customer or client, but they will talk to you. I've been doing it for 25 years. They will talk to you.
Yeah, you just got to get over that initial part, right? Where you can demonstrate. Is that right? Like to get that conversation started, I guess, what are the hurdles or things you have to kind of get past?
Well, there are two major pieces. Maybe I should say three major pieces. The first is the targeting. And I see this all the time. If you need to have a very clear definition, I call it the ideal prospect profile, a very clear definition of the best targets for you in your market with your offering. And you need to be very concrete about it, and they need to be things that concrete, verifiable, objective facts. In other words, number of employees or a revenue number, or geographic location. It cannot be subjective things like, I'm looking for people that need a particular service, because you don't know what people need till you talk to them. So you start by building a list of prospects that match the parameters. Actually, look at your best customers or your best clients. Which ones are the most profitable? You are looking for prospects that match this, that have a similar profile. So that's the first thing. You've got to be talking to the right people. And I see so many sales professionals wasting so much time just talking to the wrong people. All prospects, all leads are not created equal. There's only so many hours in the day. Spend them talking to the right people. That's number one. Number two is that when that prospect says hello, or when you get their voicemail, or if you're going to send them an email, you have to have something compelling to say. One of the questions I am asked all of the time is, Wendy, what do I say if they say I'm not interested? And if everyone that you talk to says I'm not interested, that means they don't think you're saying anything interesting. So that's not really an objection. That's I need to say something else. And the secret here, and we can go into it more, but the secret here is, what is the challenge that your prospects have that you can help them with, and how do they talk about it? Not how do you talk about it, how do they talk about it? And I can give you an example. I have a client I was just working with who is a marketing consultant. And she works with nonprofit agencies. She helps them put on fundraising events. And she was completely unable to get anyone to engage with her. And so we started working together, and I said to her, okay, well, why should any of these nonprofit agencies be interested in your work? And she said, oh, well, we have a very special proprietary process. And I said, okay, so what? Tell me about this. What's so special about this process? She said, oh, well, we meet with the client. I said, okay, so what? Well, we ask a lot of questions. So what? Well, we analyze the answers. So what? Well, then we make recommendations. And I said, so what? Special proprietary process, meet with the client, ask questions, analyze the answers, make recommendations. This is a long list of stuff she does. The rule is, you all might want to write this down, nobody cares what you do. They care how they're going to be better off when you finish. So I said to her, okay, you're going to do all these things. You're going to meet with them, you're going to ask the questions, you're going to analyze, you're going to make recommendations. How are they better off? She said, their events make money. Bingo. So we helped her create an introduction that went something like, we work with nonprofit agencies that are tired of losing their shirt on their fundraising events. People stopped hanging up on her and started engaging with her. So having something to say that's a challenge for your prospects and using their language is going to go a long way towards getting that engagement. And step number 3, oh, you have a question for me. Go ahead.
I love it. I love it. This is great. So keep going. Number 3, I want to hear it.
Well, step number 3 is having a process. You know, most people approach cold calling as just throwing a bunch of stuff against the wall and hoping something sticks.
Mm-hmm.
What we do is we teach a very step-by-step process of reaching out to prospects by phone, leaving voicemails, sending emails, and because all the research shows that it takes somewhere between 8 to 12 touches to get somebody to respond. So you need to have a system in place, a step-by-step process in place to get your prospects to respond. And going back to one of your original questions, is what I have seen over all the years I've been doing this is that for most people, when they have a step-by-step system and they know exactly how they're going to proceed and they know exactly what they're going to say and what the next step is, and if they do speak with the prospect, if the prospect says A, they know they're going to say B. And if the prospect says C, they know they're going to say D, and they know what to say to the gatekeeper. A lot of the fear goes away. And people that do our coaching program, the last session, I always ask everybody what's changed for you doing this coaching program, and they all say some version of, oh, now I just call up the prospect and I get them on the phone and I say what I have to say, and then they book an appointment with me. And they kind of say it like that. They become very blasé because the fear has gone away. They know what they're doing.
So it sounds like the fear comes from the unknown or potential, this is not going to work. But if they follow the 3 steps you talked about, which, by the way, it's not going to be the snap of your fingers. Targeting the right prospect takes some time. Formulating, getting down to that problem. I love what you said about, like, so what, right? It's like, nobody cares. I say this all the time, you know, in cold emailing. It's the verbal written version. Somebody gives you, hey, they pick up the phone, maybe they open the email, but like, doesn't mean they actually care. And they definitely don't care about you. They want to know how maybe they can solve their problems with your solution or whatever that is. But I like how you just started that example you gave with the pain point. Are you tired of losing money on your events? And you said losing your shirts or something even better, right? So core pain point. So and then that process, I love it. And I want to talk to you about scripts and process a little bit more and dig in. But before I do that, so time frame wise, like, what somebody's getting started in cold calling, they've got a good target list. What's the time frame where they can figure out, like, it works to where they can come up with a process? Is this like a few months? Is it a year, a week? What's your thoughts?
Well, we do a coaching program over a 3-month period. And we often have people in that program that are absolute beginners. They've never made a cold call in their life. And at the end of 3 months, they are all setting appointments. And Uh, it's part of it is simply following the process. And the biggest, people are often surprised at how simple it is. It actually, most people make it harder than it needs to be. It's what's the core message? What is this problem that your prospects have that you can help them with?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you another example. I work with a lot of people in commercial real estate. And when I ask them that question, how do you help your clients? They always say, oh, we help them get the best deal. And then I say to them, so are your prospects waking up in the middle of the night worrying about, I want to do a really good real estate deal? Is that what they say to themselves? And of course, they all say no. And I say, well, they're waking up in the middle of the night. They're a business owner. What are they worried about? And they usually say something like, we're spending too much money on the rent. We have to cut costs. So then I say, okay, well, that's what you talk about. So this idea, go interview some of your customers. Go interview some of your clients. What's the language that they use to talk about their challenges? Because everyone that's listening in, whatever industry you are in, your industry has a language. There's a way that you all talk among yourselves. Your prospects don't talk like that. They are not experts in your industry, and they will not talk like you. You need to talk like them. And even though we all know what the word deal means in relation to real estate, if you're in real estate and you say to a prospect, oh, we're going to help you get the best deal, that immediately creates a barrier because that's not how they talk. They're like, oh, some real estate guy called me. What we want them to do is say, oh, this person, they get me. They understand my business. They understand my concerns. So the language is so important, and that's why we work with people on what they are saying and how they are saying it.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. It's funny. I do a lot of commercial real estate investing. And so somehow I ended up on a list, right? Somewhere and somebody did a great job targeting me, right? Active real estate investors. They cold called me and they're like, hey, I don't know exactly what they started. They said that like, uh, they wanted to contact me to give me an awesome opportunity to invest in commercial real estate in Austin and blah, blah, blah. Right. And, and I'm like, I don't care about Austin. I don't care about the awesome opportunity. I care about making money with my money that I invest as the customer, right? So making money and getting exclusive deals. Like I want exclusive, or I'm always hunting for like, where can I get access to the best deals, right? So if they just said the best or exclusive or whatever, and they talked about like how the returns are on Austin real estate versus how to invest into Austin real estate, I would have been interested. Instead, I was like, no, thank you. And I tried to give the person a shot. I just stuck on the phone for maybe a few minutes and he just kept going in the wrong direction. And I was like, okay, no, thank you. Sorry. But it was just like, they lost me in the beginning. And if they just use words or things I actually care about, again, as a commercial real estate person, I care about the IRR on my money. I care about finding deals and whatnot. So totally resonates of like how you can miss the whole mark just from the beginning by not using that language or mentioning things people care about.
And I'm going to piggyback on what you just said, because you need to take a look at, why do real estate investors invest in real estate? I would bet that for 99.99999%, it's because they want to make some money. People do not wake up in the middle of the night and say, I want to invest in real estate for the hell of it. There's a reason. So what's the reason? That's what you have to talk about. And then if you are able to offer people exclusivity on certain things, mention that too, because that would be a big deal. So it's just looking at what is it behind, what is the reason that people are potentially interested in something.
Absolutely. I love it. And I like the fact that you're saying that you're treating the cold call as an introduction, right? You're not you're not hard pressed selling them something. You want to get the conversation started, right?
Yes. You know, one of the things that used to really confuse me when I started my business, people would say to me, I don't want a cold call, I want to build relationships. And I'd go, what? Like, I like didn't understand what they were telling me.
Hmm.
And then it dawned on me, the cold call is your introduction. You still have to build the relationship. You still have to do everything else that you would need to do. It's simply an introduction. And one of the big mistakes that people make a lot is treating it like, I'm going to close the sale in the next 3 minutes. That's, I mean, that's very unlikely. And so step one, I'm going to say something very, very controversial here because everyone wants to be consultative. Consultative selling does not work for prospecting. It is the difference between getting someone to talk to you and then actually having that conversation. You can't consult with somebody that won't talk to you. So step one is getting someone to talk to you. Um, most people that are prospecting, most salespeople that are prospecting are trying to set up an appointment. And I have a very loose definition of the word appointment, because appointment could be that you're going to get in your car and you drive and you go meet them. Or the appointment could be online like this, through Zoom or Skype, and you have a video call. Or maybe that appointment, you just do everything over the phone. So the appointment, that word appointment, is that the prospect agrees to have an in-depth conversation with you. That is step one. And if you can't get step one, you don't get to step two, where you can actually consult. So I'm not saying that consultative selling is a bad thing. It is a good thing. But you cannot consult with somebody that will not talk to you. So get them to talk to you first.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you can't just jump to the second part without going through that first on a cold call. I want to talk about shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about scripts and process. I get, simple question here is, I guess, do scripts play into building kind of comfort and into the process for you guys?
Absolutely. I know that a lot of people don't like the word script. People will say to me, well, I can't be myself. It's phony. I would argue that having a script enables you to be your best self because you're prepared. You know the points you're going to make. You know what you're going to say if you're asked a question or you hear an objection. You're just ready. And all salespeople use scripts. And what I mean by that is everybody that's listening in, unless you just started in sales this morning, you probably have an elevator speech that you use, an introduction that you use. That's a script. There are probably questions that you get asked all the time, and you have an answer, a response that you give all the time. You hear that question, here's the response. There are probably objections that you hear. And when you hear that objection, you have a response. Those are all scripts. If you're saying pretty much the same thing every time, whether or not it's written down, even if it's just in your head, that's a script. So the question is not, should I use the script? The real question is, does your script work? Does whatever it is you're saying get you the result that you want to get? And so that does require some thought. As we've been discussing about what's the challenge, what's the language. But once you get that and it works, then it works. And what's interesting is it works. We're talking about cold calling right now. It works in email. It works if you are texting. It works if you are face-to-face with someone. We had somebody in one of our programs that would go to a lot of conferences because that's where her prospects were. And she reported to me at the end of the program, she said, usually when I go to these conferences and I talk about what I do, I could see people's eyes kind of glaze over and roll back into their heads. And she said, so I went to a conference and I used the cold calling script. She said, their eyes got big. Their eyes got big and they lit
Nice.
up and they completely got it. And so, and that, going back to what we were talking about earlier, this is really a foundational communication skill. How do you get someone's attention so that they're willing to talk to you?
Absolutely. I love it, right? I mean, everybody has an elevator pitch on what they do. I try to tell people what I do, and I see the physical eyes glaze over, and I'm like, okay, I gotta adjust it. I gotta adjust it. I gotta adjust it. Ultimately, what I ended up creating was a script. I don't call it a script. It's an elevator pitch, but it's the same thing. And I feel like scripts have a bad rep. Um, but I think it's bad scripts, right? That are the ones that are really bad. And it's people. Do you think? I guess like I want to talk about a little bit like mistakes and again, like there's clearly cold calling works. You've lived that for 20 years. You've helped hundreds of folks, if not more, and some fairly large brands from your bio and whatnot. But yet cold calling still has this bad or fear or negative thing to it. I guess like what are some mistakes that folks make? So we talked about like they just don't get people's attention, they don't talk in the language. Any other stuff?
Well, we're talking about scripting right now, and one of the big mistakes that people make when they create a script, and we do, our clients, we write it down. We make them write it down. People do not talk the way they write. And we have all been trained in school, capital letter at the beginning, period at the end. There's got to be a noun and a verb. That's not how people talk. People talk in phrases. Sometimes the tenses don't agree. People say, So the idea when you're writing a script, and it doesn't have to be word for word, it can be bullet points, but the idea is to write it down the way that you talk. You want to sound like yourself talking. And if you struggle with this, call up your voicemail. Talk into your voicemail and then play it back and write it down. Because when you use language, there's another big mistake people make. They take language from their website. They take marketing copy. We are the world leader in whatever. People don't talk like that.
Yeah.
So you want to sound like yourself. People are usually really surprised at how pedestrian our scripts are, because you want to talk in such a way that the person you're talking to understands what you're talking about. And if they think you're phony, or if you're using the marketing copy from your website, they will think you are phony. If they think that you're just not saying anything they want to hear, they'll say, I'm not interested, and hang up. But if you sound like, hey, this is somebody I could talk to, they get me, they'll talk to you.
Absolutely. I love it. I mean, I think it's some of the most basic things people get wrong. It's talk like a human being, right? I think marketing copy is written on a website because people aren't going to read the whole thing. They're going to skim through it, and maybe the 4-sentence bio that you have on your website, you think people will read maybe 1 or 2 parts of it. Whereas if you said that out loud, it's like, wait, what? Like, I don't need to say all that about myself or my company or whatnot. It doesn't matter. You got to get somebody to pay attention. So I love it. Thank you for joining. I've got one more question for you. I know that the theme of this was really around getting over that fear of cold calling. Let's say for those folks that are watching this video, I guess like what would you say like the next steps or steps people can do to kind of start getting over their fear?
Well, first of all, I want to invite all of you to download my ebook, my free ebook, which is called The Cold Calling Survival Guide. And the subtitle is Start Setting Appointments in the Next 24 Hours. And in the survival guide, I outline a process and some steps that you can take to start to reframe how you think about it, and concrete steps that you can take to actually create your scripts, your messaging, and put your process in place so it will be successful for you. You do not have to love this. The opposite of hating to cold call is not that you now love it. That's silly. What we go for is neutral. This is a business process. If you're a business owner or you're a salesperson, there are processes that you follow in the business. This happens to be one of them. It's a way to get new customers. And so the idea is not that you're going to love it. The idea is that you're neutral, that we're going to take the emotion out of it. Because if you are neutral, you can do what you need to do and be successful. And so that's reframing how you think about it, and it's creating the messaging and following the process. And that's why I wrote the Cold Calling Survival Guide, is for people that are uncomfortable or scared, because it doesn't have to be a big scary thing. And actually, many of my clients now tell me it's fun, and they used to be scared.
That's amazing, and we'll link the link to the ebook so folks can download it on the speaker page. So just scroll down below. Thanks again, Wendy. Really, really appreciate it. And folks that are watching, stay tuned for some more awesome interviews on all things sales prospecting. All right, everyone, take care.
Bye-bye.